Good afternoon, folks. This is Frankie coming to you straight from the bunker. Well, it's February. It's a beautiful day out. I can't believe how warm it is. But it's a somber day. Again, another senseless tragedy happened at a school down in the state of Florida. And the first thing I see is these politicians and some of you left-wing people on social media jumping gun control. We need to take guns away, but ban the Second Amendment. Yeah, I've heard it all. And do you really? That's not going to solve the problem. More laws isn't going to solve the problem. Common sense will solve the problem. And even at that, it's never going to be completely solved. You're going to have these incidents. I mean, it's a fact of life, folks. Sorry to say, it's a fact of life. I'm not going to sugarcoat things because we don't do that shit here. But here's the deal. You have countries out there that have virtual bans on firearms. Take, for instance, France. Now, up until 2014, off-duty police officers couldn't even carry a firearm in France. However, you had a mass shooting at a opera house that killed over 100 people. But guns are illegal in France. How did that happen? Because you had a determined criminals that were gung-ho on killing as many people as possible. In Beslan, Russia. Now, last I saw, Russia doesn't have a Second Amendment. They don't have the right to carry, bear, and keep arms. You had, back in 2004, 334 people killed in one school on September 1st, 2004. 138 of them kids. This was done with bombs and guns. They have a ban on firearms, but you had determined people wanting to kill. Central Park, New York. You had 8 people killed with a car. A truck rented at Home Depot. Folks, my point is this. You could ban guns, and this would still happen. There's other ways of preventing it. Well, not preventing it, but deterring it. If you notice, these pussies that go around doing this are hitting what's so-called soft targets. Movie theaters, schools. Well, they're gun-free zones. They know that there's nobody there that's going to shoot back at them. So it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You know, we get into the mental health part of it. Yeah, the guy was crazy, but he wasn't I wouldn't say that he's suffering from a mental illness. I just think that he's just an evil fuck. Okay? That's what he is, an evil fuck. Because he carefully planned this out. He had smoke bombs with him. He knew enough to load enough magazines. He pulled a fire alarm because he knew that would draw them out of their classrooms. And when they got out of and he even shot people outside of the school so they couldn't go for help. So this is a premeditation. Again, a determined sick individual who had his heart set on killing. How could there be a deterrent, or how could that be countered? By police officers. Now, I know there's some people out there that say we need to arm the teachers. I don't, after speaking to some police officers, they make a great point. I don't necessarily agree with that. And here's the reason. You have, and you law enforcement officers out there could back me up on this, you're responding to an active shooter call at a school. Well, chances are you're probably going to neutralize somebody who is carrying a firearm and not wearing a uniform, or that you cannot identify as law enforcement. In other words, folks, you might wind up with a situation where cops are killing teachers because of the chaos that something like this causes. However, having some uniformed law enforcement armed on premises in the school might be a good idea. It might be something to look at. Stripping people of gun rights, that's not going to prevent something like this, because that person would have done this regardless of what law was on the books. Look, it was already against the law for him to bring that gun to that school, so he broke that law. If it would have been illegal for him to own a firearm, he would have broken that law too. The only people that obey the law are law-abiding people. Law-abiding people do not go in and shoot up schools and movie theaters and things of that nature. So, these politicians are going to use 17 deaths to enhance their political argument. It's a bunch of fucking hogwash. You know, stripping us of our rights is not going to solve the issue of school shootings. It's not. There is a mental health angle to this, and it's something that needs to be looked at, but looked at carefully, because, you know, a lot of things are deemed mental health issues. ADHD is a mental health issue. So anybody with ADHD, we ban them from having a firearm. They're not violent. I like the people that go around saying, oh, PTSD. People with PTSD normally do not go around and kill other people. They're more prone to kill themselves than to kill others and to hurt others. So before we get into the mental health angle of it, let's look at what mental health issues cause people to act out violently. Some people, you know what? Mental health aside, some people are just sick, evil individuals. That was this person. That was this person, and I'm not going to even say the fucktard's name. That was this fucktard that did this down in Florida. He was a sick, evil individual. He came from an evil fucking orifice. You know, but the argument, people, is not. And you politicians out there, you fucking, you know, it burns me up to see people like Pelosi and Blumenthal and all that. You know, you fuckers are surrounded by armed guards. You fuckers are your security is armed. So it's easy for you, Nancy, to go around saying some shit like this that you want to take away the rights of the average American citizen to protect themselves and their family because of this. You know what? Let's get the real agenda on the table, you liberal wingnuts. It's not even about protecting the schools. It's about you having more power over us, because with an armed citizenry, you ultimately answer to us, because you know you can only push us but so far. So let's get off of that argument, Nancy. I hate that fucking woman. Let's get off of that subject of banning guns and banning the Second Amendment, and the Second Amendment's outdated. It's not outdated. You know, that Second Amendment, there's a reason. I want to give a couple quick examples, because I don't want this video to run too long and bore people. But you have a country, Switzerland. There's a reason why Switzerland was not invaded by the Nazis during World War II. There was a plan to invade, but they never did it, because they knew that heavily armed citizenry would commit guerrilla warfare against them, and they would lose a lot of people. So Switzerland just wasn't worth it to them, and they didn't do it. It's in history, folks. It was considered, and it was in history. I've done a lot of reading about World War II history. It's one of my passions. Here in the United States, it's not by coincidence that we have not been invaded by a foreign power since the War of 1812. It was considered by the Japanese during World War II. However, Admiral Yamamoto argued against it with a famous quote. He said, "We cannot invade the mainland of the U.S. because behind every blade of grass there's a person with a rifle." That's the truth. That's the truth. And again, you'd wind up with a long guerrilla warfare that would cost hundreds of thousands of their troops' lives. So there's a reason for that Second Amendment. It keeps our politicians in check, and it does keep our country safe. I believe in the Second Amendment, as well as all the other Bill of Rights. And our rights are given to us by God, not by you, Nancy. So, there's some food for thought. Think about it. I welcome your comments. This is Frankie coming to you straight from the bunker, laying some truth on your ass. Peace out, bitches.